Hey everybody, it's Bust with Expedition Trial number 366. Let's get started here. See what shows up. Something new. All right. Well, new to some degrees and double new in some other ones. And so, as we can see over here on the left, Riven is now a part of Arachnophilia. She replaces Draven over here. It's kind of an odd looking card pool now. Like it used to just be mainly focused on the uh, the spiders aspect of it, but now that they've added in Riven in place of Draven, we're seeing the reforged cards as well. And so I still think it's a pretty powerful card pool. It's something that I am looking to pursue at the next opportunity we get. But we've got the Ekko down here with the Time Lords pool, and I would like to come in and try to piece together this predict slash copy some cards deck, and so that's what we'll be chasing down here. So we'll get this pulled up on the site. We're just going to head over here to ftpbus.com. I do have the expedition helper completely updated for the 211 changes. There were quite a bit. It actually was quite the big shakeup to expedition. It might be a little bit tough to see. Like in this first week when the new card pools are so prevalent and they're so like boosted up in your ability to find them. But I think once things kind of balance out here, we'll see a lot of interesting things and different things than we were used to seeing before the 211 patch. But nonetheless, here we have Time Lords Ekko pairs up with Zillion, and you're meant to be taking advantage of predicts. And so, as you can see with Ekko himself, the way you get him flipped is to predict 5 times. It's not a strategy I super like pursuing. I do know that drop border and both fallen feline are quite good. And so what I'm saying when I don't really like to pursue it is I don't like to go after all of these cards that just give us predicts. It's a little easier to see over on the Shurima side. Like we can pull up Zillion real quick if you're wanting to take a peek at this. But there's the ancient preparations, things like careful preparation. I don't think are quite good. Scythe Scout is like borderline good, not good, and then of course things like Scrying Sands are quite incredible. And so I don't like playing these cards in my deck that predict just for the sake of getting predict cards in our deck. I don't think the payoff is quite there just to chase those strategies down. Like something like Aspiring Chronomancer is exactly what I'm looking for as far as a predict card goes. It's a 2/3 for 2 mana, comes into play, you predict. Like that's exactly the kind of thing we're looking for. I don't want to be playing things like Feral Prescience. It's just a 0 cost card that gives you a predict. And so, with that in mind, out of the P and Z side, the only thing we'll really be pursuing here is Practical Perfectionist. This really lets us, get a good predict in, make a copy of that predict, and then hopefully improve the quality of our deck if we want. But we aren't trying to stack up a whole bunch of time tricks just to fire off these predicts. Then thing number 2. There are a few different decks you can really pursue with this. As far as I'm concerned, the strongest thing you can probably be pursuing is after the Chirean Sumpworker. You do need ways to get copies of this. The kind of preferred way for me to copy this is actually iterative improvement. But whatever you can do to get 6 or 7 copies of this guy and get 2 on the board, his flip is incredibly powerful. It's the turns all of the Sumpworkers into 4/2 elusives that AoE your opponent for 1 damage if you pull it off. And so that is kind of deck number 1, where you're just going to stack Sumpworkers. You're going to stack ways to copy it. You're going to stack ways to predict this guy to the top. Deck number 2 would be around the Elnix. You really need to find a Freylord champion to chase this down, and you really want that champion to be a Nivea. But the Troop of Elnix deck is quite powerful if you're able to pair it up with a lot of these predicts and with a lot of these card copying cards. And so, before we leave Ekko here, the last thing to say is they have kind of put the 2 cost matters theme into this Time Lords deck. So you see the Insightful Investigator being a huge payoff card for playing 2 cost spells, and then kind of the idea here is if we take a card like Gotcha, we predict it to the top of our deck, and then we know that we're either going to draw it right away with Time Trick, or we'll draw it the next turn. You can kind of get these 2 cost cards set up using the predict mechanic. Again, not something I really like to chase down. I think Gotcha makes a lot of things worth it, but it's not something that you quite have to do. Okay, interesting set here. I was curious how this was going to play out, because I have been talking about this theme as to where, um, if we're really, really, really going to be out here looking for the Chirean Sumpworker, and then we don't want Zillion, right? The idea here, from uh, kind of a gameplay perspective, is Ekko and Zillion are meant to work together. Riot has specifically crafted this deck to have the predict cards from Zillion, the predict card from Ekko, a lot of positive interactions going between the two. But if we're gonna say, hey, I want to maximize my chances of finding Kyrie and Sumpworker, then we don't want any Shurima champions. If we're gonna get 7 synergy picks throughout the draft, 6 synergy picks, whatever they're going to be. So we're going to see this Time Lords pack at least 6 times. Every time we see Time Lords, we want it to be a PNZ pack. And so you lose out on that if you're going to take this Zillion. And that's not something that I really want to do here. And so I'm going to let him go. If there was a Freylord champion here, we can consider it. But if we're going to go for the Sumpworker, I do not want Shurima. So if it comes down to either taking the Nocturne or taking the Irelia, I'm just going to come over here and take the Irelia. We're not really looking to pick up a whole lot of cards out of Ionia, but the kind of the thing that we can look to here is there are some bounce spells. We've got lead and follow to bounce one of our own units, Defiant Dance to bounce one of our opponents. And we can use these to either protect our Sumpworkers, or we can use them to, if we want to play another Perfectionist or something, we can let things slide that way. And so we'll pull up this Irelia real quick. I'm pretty sure there's not too many cards in this card pool that we're actually looking to pick up. We're not going to try and really be a sparring student deck. I could, get some usage out of Green Glade Duo. We can look at ourselves as having a kind of a minor elusive theme if we're getting the Sumpworker together. And something like Vanguard's Edge can be moderately interesting to give us additional attacks with the Sumpworker. But this is a pretty small card pool. We're not trying to get too much value out of the Blade Dance theme. But Irelia is still an extremely strong champion on her own. And there's a Green Glade Duo here, so we can maybe get some synergies out of this. I do concede that these aren't the most synergistic card pools that we could ever find, but I think we'll be looking reasonably strong here. Okay, so as far as these go, I don't want Bilgewater. There's nothing in Bilgewater that makes me want to chase these themes down. As these Opportunity Attacks packs show up, if it doesn't have a Green Glade Duo in it, I'm probably not interested in it. And so these Time Lords cards over here are at least pretty on theme between the Drop Porter and the Patrol Wardens. Okay, and so I think I'm still pretty good to pursue this theme how we are. Like, kind of tier 1 will be, have we found a Sumpworker? We may need to find ourselves just abandoning ship since we haven't seen any at this point, but I think we can still perhaps find some more of that theme. Kind of number 2 is just going to be, can we pick up a Green Glade Duo, which we have here. So she's strong enough to just jump in and take. It does kind of suck to have to pass on that Iterative Improvement Rummage pack, but if we're going to get these duos going, then that's what we're going to have to do. Okay, she showed up here again. So again, we don't have any Sumpworkers. The duo is going to be our next strongest pickup. All right, and they're just not going to show up today. We're just we're just here for the cloning program, but none of it is making an appearance. I think out of this pack, I'm trying to think, how much value we'll really get out of a Young Witch. I do really love Young Witch, but the Stand United is a fairly weak card, and Irelia, Ekko already have quick attack. We have the 2 Green Glade duos, so they're not going to be doing too much attacking. And so I think I'm just going to come over here and take the Iterative Improvement. I don't like Trail of Evidence, but I don't like Stand United either. But I think if we're able to actually, get this deck together, then the Iterative Improvement is going to be fairly important. Okay, and then here, I think I'm okay to pick up the Insightful Investigator. As you take a moment to take a look at our curve, we have 7 2-drops amongst the 16 cards in our deck, so we're almost 50-50 on the 2-drops, and then that's going to include the Suit Up and the Gotcha. Did we take? No, we didn't take a Gotcha earlier, but the Suit Up will kind of count in there as well. We don't have any top end at this point, and so that could be a pretty important take for us here. And okay, here we go. Here's our first Sumpworker. We're gonna have to have to be using the counterfeit copies to really get this going. But all right, looking good, looking good. We've got a second Sumpworker along with the removal spell. It's exactly what we're looking for here. Okay, okay. So, not we finally encountered a pack that doesn't have a Sumpworker or a Green Glade duo in it. So we have to stop and make a real decision. With this, I think we just want the Young Witch. Puffcat Peddler, I'm not really excited about here. We're kind of stacked up on our spell count at this point, anyways. And I think the Young Witch Feyfolk will be relatively strong. The Feyfolk is so good at just bringing us back into a race if we've started to fall behind. But here, got another Sumpworker, very easy take. What can we continue with? I think with these, we just want to continue with the 2 drops in the gotcha. The Highwayman Recall is extremely weak. Steel Tempest, Sonic Wave are too conditional. It's not what our deck is really trying to do. This is a fairly good take. Okay, and then this is a kind of an interesting one in that the card we want the most is Iterative Improvement, but Death Ray is pretty horrible. At least my kind of thoughts with Death Ray in this style of deck is we haven't picked up too many predict cards, but we could technically predict this thing away, so it just moves away from the top of our deck and we don't have to continue to redraw it. But man, I think would we rather just have the Time Trick and the Elnick? Probably so. The Elnick is such a meaty unit that it's kind of tough to want to pass on. All right, which one's called Shot? Parallel, the shuffles in the Parallel Convergence. I think that's reasonable. The drop order is good, even if we don't hit it out of a predict. We don't have too much predict at this point. It's really just our Ekko, but nonetheless, he's still a pretty reasonable 1-drop. Okay, our last choice here. I think I want to pick up this Whimsy. We have the 2 Green Glade duos, so we can take advantage of lead and follow to a degree, but we don't have any real interaction. We just have a couple of gotchas, and so having kind of a catch-all for any non-champion could be pretty important here. So okay, so we got to go and turn something premium as the way we do things here. Let's take a peek real quick and see what is available out of where we got PNZ and Ionia. Okay, gotta find our not owned ones. That'll make it a little bit easier. Looks like none of these cards that we haven't turned premium yet are in our deck. Let's switch ourselves over to the spells. There's Time Trick. We can definitely go and add in a Time Trick here, and so I think we got 1 copy of this, right? So that makes it that makes it the prime candidate for turning premium. Man, if you ever want to see what cards are bad in Expedition, you can just take a look at our commons that we haven't turned to premium. These are a big pile of cards that I never want to play outside of Time Winder. Time Winder is fantastic. Oh, just so many bad ones. But all right, let's get this going here. Okay, and off we go. So yeah, I like our idea here to where we're playing with we're looking for the Sumpworkers but falling back on the Green Glade duos. I was really getting worried that we were going to dive throughout the entire draft without seeing a Sumpworker, but we caught a run there in the middle, and hopefully more of them will continue to show up as we take more Echoes in this draft. Okay, so what do we got here? Don't want the counterfeit copies or the gotcha. I think we need to hang on to the Investigator. We don't have enough 1-drops to where we can realistically count on the Young Witch to be getting us a ton of value. So we did pick him up here, but this is fine. May not even want to play the Young Witch next turn anyways. It's against like a Lysandra, Aurelian Soul. I have to imagine this is some kind of like really slow deck, and we're just going to get more damage out of the Investigator. Doing sporting his cool and play haircut. I barely know what cool and play is. I doubt very many people watching the video are aware of cool and play. But if he comes in, I'll make the trade. Nope. So I'd say that we're pretty safe to not have to worry about a combat trick here, or at least a 1-cost combat trick. Probably not going to see a Brittle Steel or a Elixir of Iron coming in from these Sunhawks. Surprised you didn't just want to offer up a trade last turn. Okay. Interesting. Maybe it was for searching for a card that was a little bit stronger or something. Don't have an answer to that, which is a little scary, but keep keep charging forward. And I don't really want to add the Sumpworker to the board until we find a second one. That was a really lucky pickup here. So if you are facing the Sumpworker deck, you need to try and answer this thing as quickly as you can, because once we get the second one down, then the ability has just been done. So all of our future Sumpworkers are going to be extremely strong. Okay, he spent quite a bit of mana here. I think, like, oh, this is probably safe enough. I assume that he's going to have like a combat trick and take down our Ekko, but I think our attack is so good otherwise that it's just not that big of a deal. We'll be out here popping any barrier he could potentially have. He's going to block with the Herald of Dragons just because it's going to die. So maybe we shouldn't have come in with the Ekko because it lets him just put the Herald of Dragons in front of... okay, that's where his barrier is going. Fine with that. But I was going to say, assuming that like he didn't have a combat trick, we would want... You know, he'd put the Herald in front of Ekko. This would just die. We wouldn't get a strike because the unit was dead before he struck. But turned out okay. And as we start to build up some mana, we should be getting a pretty reasonable late game going with the Investigator. Oh, another posse. Nuke your board. Okay. Gonna have like a single combat. Oh, shatter. Okay. Nothing we can do about that. But we're looking pretty strong on board here now. So I'm going to add the Elnuck, I'm going to add the Posse, and then the plan is just going to be to open attack next turn. Our attack with the drop order is going to be good as well. Not going to add the duo. This gets really awkward if he just plays, you know, random 6-drop, random 7-drop. So happy to just go ahead and try to slam our board in here. Okay. Looking strong. Alright, as long as we can dodge some, like a supernova type card, I think we'll be okay. Like a preemptive Irelia. not really what I was looking to drop here. I was kind of hoping that we were just passing on a turd and that was going to be that, but okay. Here's the troop. This was the card that we were looking to build towards if Freylord made an appearance. It didn't, so we didn't get to, but you really need to be paired up with a Nivea if you want to try and pull off the troop deck. Let's see what he does. I'm kind of okay with just adding Young Witch now. Since he's starting to do stuff like add Stellacorn, this lets us just attack with everything and him not be able to get good blocks with the Stellacorn since all of our units have quick attack. Is Irelia going to flip here? Yeah. Alright, this one should be done. We'll attack with the Investigator way down at the right. So if he wants to block her with a quick attacker, he'll probably be dead at this point. Yeah, we get a big 0 predict so far this game. See what he does. If he putting a block in front of Irelia, we can swap this out, but we were just lethal anyways, so looking good, looking strong. That was a pretty lucky pickup with that Sumpworker there pretty early on, but it is. what our deck's trying to do. So it'd just be a little bit easier to do if we had like 6 or 7 and not 3. What do we got? Ekko with the Sumpworker. Beautiful. Couldn't ask for more. Okay, off we go. It's a little upgrade. Maybe we'll end up with like 10 of the 10 of these Sumpworkers before it's all said and done. Are we there? Happening? All right. Twisted Fate's kind of scary. I'm curious about what amount of AoEs they would have here, but there is a decent chance seeing this Jinx Bilgewater type number that we're up against a Fishbones deck, and if we're able to pull off a Sumpworker against Fishbones, we might be able to just AoE their whole board, but have any at this point. Oh, no one drop. If that's what if he's trying to do the Fishbones, he's certainly unsuccessful at this stage of the game. So you're not long for this World Greenglade duo. That's okay. It's weird though with this Jinx Twisted Fate and opponent not playing any units. Okay, discarded Salvage. Sure. So let's get the duo going. Next turn, I assume that we're just gonna play Ekko, which I'm probably just have to trade into his Sump Dredger on the following turn, but we do have the options here as well to do things with iterative improvement. But this just seems better than playing like Young Witch Improvement Greenglade duo, but we would have a duo to trade the Dredger next turn. I think we just have to kind of get over that Ekko's a champion and be willing to trade him away. Cheap old Patrol Wardens. I wonder what happens if you. No, I don't think if you play the improvement, it counts as a 2-mana card this turn. I don't think I've ever tried that though. I don't really want to spend the spell mana because I want to be able to play 3 units next turn. So I'm just going to add Ekko, let the Time Trick fall off, and then we'll look into next turn to say play a duo, an improvement on a duo, then follow up with the Young Witch. And I think that should be pretty reasonable. Counterfeit copies. Okay. Uh-oh. Copy the other one. Sure. If we want to get real clever, we could just try to Young Witch off one of these, but I don't think we'll to go that far. Let's see if he's got another Mystic Shot for us. We'll protect the big one here. It seems like he wanted to play a Mystic Shot or something, but this is fine. We want to like Time Trick and try to set up. It's like, if we're going to try and set up a gotcha, we just need to Time Trick next turn. So I think this is okay. He can block his only big unit here. The tasty Feyfolk shows up so good at just ending these races. Nothing we can do about that. I guess we can time trick and see if we hit a suit up. But not expecting a lot out of this. I don't really want any of these cards. I guess Whimsy could be useful, but I'm just gonna let them all go. So here I'm just kind of thinking, if we take the 4, like if we put like drop border in front of Sump Dredger and take 4 from the ones on the right, and then just have a big open attack next turn, that should be pretty huge. But getting offered up this trade's probably too good to pass up. Not going to want to block any of our stuff next turn. Sure. Counterfeit copy's not quite what we're looking for, but I guess we can copy the called shot. So we're at the stage of the game to where we can just cycle a bunch of stuff anyways. So if we draw more called shots, we can probably play them. Trying to look at my deck and see what we actually have here. It's like we have 22 cards, but 4 of them are Sumpworkers and 3 of them are gotchas. So I mean, we have a lot of good draws that we can potentially pick up here. More called shots. I think I want to play the Investigator now, because if I don't want to play like a called shot. We draw something that doesn't matter, and then we play. We get to a spot to where we just can't add cards to the board. So I want to play the Investigator to make sure we have a unit that can attack here. Okay. And I think we probably want to just get in with the Sumpworker as well. I'm thinking we just attack with the Young Witch and the Sumpworker for 3 damage. See if we can't close it out this way. We still have good blockers for his stuff next turn. Our health is still pretty high. I think this looks good. Not 100% sure, but I think if we draw the parallel convergence, it just pushes all of our units forward, and then we'd be supporting our Sumpworker with the convergence. Not sure what happens with this and the Sumpworker, if they're going to flip or how that interaction goes, but we didn't draw it, so it doesn't quite matter just yet. Okay. This 2-bot's not bad here. when you're getting your opponent down to this level, drawing the ignitions are much more important than previously. Okay, that seems positive. Uh-oh. That's scary. Alright, game. I'm getting a little worried now. We have the advantage, but I think we're just going to be like a little bit short of closing this one out. If this damage gets in, then I feel a lot better about it. We can realistically kill him with Ignition. He's going to be able to empty out his hand this turn. He's throwing down cards like this. Not a removal spell. Okay. So I don't think there's any way that we lose this game now. Because we're going to be guaranteed to get the Ignition next turn. There shouldn't be any way for them to gain health. But let's just throw down all of our units. So if he comes at us with an open attack, we're only taking 1 damage from the Scrap Scuttler here. And then we should be able to play our Ignition post-combat.
I guess you can win them all.
Now it's a party.
All right, well, let's get in here and block some stuff. So it looks like we take 1. He's got any bursty ways to try and take us down. Seemed like Pocket Aces is going to the right place, but sure, you took down our Elnick. I think he would want to put the +4 damage down here on the Scuttler, so he has Mystic Shots or something. Right. Let's see if we did it. Got him. Nice. Okay, cool. We got more Sumpworkers. Just we'll take these over actual anything here. The lead and follow is not super strong on our deck anyways, so nice little upgrade. Right, here we go. Yes, we got a cat for this one. Hang on. One of the okay, whatever. This is one of the dumber cats in the world. So I love her. She's a little sweetheart, but she is dumb. So I'm afraid I'm going to run over her. She keeps walking around under my feet. But we'll see if we can't correct this problem here. Come on. Come on. Oh. All right, there we go. That should solve all our problems. But as far as this goes, I think I'm okay to just counterfeit copies the Sumpworker and try to pick up some more draws of this as quickly as we can. I don't think we're going to be in a huge rush here. It looks like he's going to be a 5-attack matters kind of deck. So I think it's fine to just try and pick up more Sumpworkers as we can. Not something that we need to slam on the board immediately. I'd rather play 2 of these in the same turn and not risk losing it. And so we'll see. We'll see if we can't force ourselves to draw 1. Get in combat? I don't think so. I think we're good to just like pass, and then next turn we'll do double Sumpworker. And I'm not really excited about just adding 1. Sivir, not a whole lot we can do about her. So let's just let this happen. Okay. Positive. I'm surprised he didn't attack with the Marauder. Should have done this the other way, shouldn't we have? I guess this will turn out the same if we just add this thing and add Green Glade Duo and then open with the Sumpworker next turn. That's fine. So dangerous to play this the sloppy way. All right, we'll just go ahead and get the Sumpworker. We'll follow up with Green Glade Duo. We lose a point of damage this way, but that wasn't that certainly wasn't optimal ordering that we did there. Doing? What are you doing? This is a top-notch kitty. Again, she's dumber than a brick, but you know, they can't make all the cats smart, I guess. It's like she's itching to jump towards the window and have my headset cord in tow. Then the kitty that used to hang out all the time it's her son. That's the one that we he'll be back in action here in a couple weeks. He had to move in with a sister while we're relocating, and he'll be back before you know it. All right, so we're falling behind here, which is kind of meh. We do have the gotcha though that we can throw at Sivir. We have the whimsy that we can throw at the enraged Yeti, and we did pick off his ability to protect the Sivir with the Sumpworks posse. So I think we just pass here. It's kind of worrisome if he's going to have like a Fury of the North or something. I don't really like that he's passing with all of this mana up, but kind of is what it is. I think I'm willing to just get blasted if the Sivir has the combat trick. It's tough for him to do it though. Noxus, he needs like a sharpened resolve, or he needs a Fury of the North, which I don't believe lives in these ash kind of pools. I wouldn't suspect too much to worry about here, but yeah, it looks like the blowout's about to happen, unless this is just a trick to take down our posse. Yep, that's fine. Not ideal, but not horrible at the end of the day. Now we are pretty far behind, though. We're gonna have to start blocking with these duos. Let's see what all we can piece together here. If we can get ourselves to where we can get lethal, oh my god. If we can get ourselves to where we can lethal next turn, then that would be ideal. I don't like him picking up the stun here. What the fuck are you doing, cat? This isn't the stuff people have to deal with, right? Alright, let's just throw it all down. Trail of Evidence now. Okay, oh god, we hit Sown Seeds. Do not like this card. But, alright, I mean... The problem here is he's just picked up the 2 Guiles. I would say realistically he might spew him off this turn, and then we can actually come in and get blockers. It seems like... I mean, it's tough to tell from his perspective, but it seems like he would rather... be doing that on our turn, just getting these attacks in with everything and then trying to shut down our duos, because they aren't lethal right now. They need a bunch more damage to be lethal next turn. Okay, he has a trick, we die. It's fun. But I don't think we ever win this game without the help of our Green Glade duos next turn. It does suck that he still has this Guile in hand. I mean, maybe we just had such bad blockers. Maybe we should have, like, on that turn that we whimsied, maybe we should have put Green Glade Duo in front of something, and then saved the whimsy for this turn. We have to take the Fey Folk. And if we don't need it this turn, like, I think there's a good chance that he just, like, leads out with a Guile here. Let's give him a chance and see what he does. We're gonna have to start playing cards. Let's see if he just bursts everything off, or if he gives us a chance to. Yeah, throwing it all down. Okay, well, let's see where this gets us. The Fey Folk might be enough to survive something next turn. Guiles the Fey Folk. I think that might be okay for us as well. Okay. All right, here's our chance for lethal. It's the same, unless he has another card, of course. But this is the same thing we were in the previous game, right? We were getting him to 1 and have our ballistic bot on the board. Okay. May not be dead though. I mean, this Fey Folk does a lot of work as far as not dying is concerned. Ekko, nice pickup. No, can't beat that. Ugh. Like we were. Oh, hang on. We can Fey Folk through this. He needs to. Something different. Oh well. I think we just die if we block this Overwhelm with the Fey Folk, right? I don't know how this works as far as simultaneous actions go in this game. Right? We should. It says we're at 5, but I don't know how that actually plays out. It's more tricks. Just actually have all the tricks. Okay, sure. All right. I think that game was definitely winnable. It was probably along the lines of that Whimsy turn, and we probably should have just saved our Sumpworks. Because the way that played out, we would just get blown out by any combat trick. So maybe we should have just like saved the Whimsy for a turn that we could attack with the. Got to pay the price for the Sumpworker, but like maybe we just blocked and then played a Whimsy with an attack with the Sumpworker, and that was probably too greedy to assume that we could just get some kind of block in there with that Sumpworker on a 1/1. That was an awful that was an awful greedy line to take. So, and I guess if we just consider our Sumpworkers, I mean, it's going to be a 5 damage attack where the Green Glade duo is going to be much smaller. Yeah, I don't like that turn. That was probably most definitely a winnable game, especially since he was down to like 3, and if we'd gotten that additional damage in with one Sumpworker, that would have been pretty close to the lethal we needed. But nonetheless, I feel pretty comfortable mulliganing all this away. Young Witch isn't super exciting here. Sumpworkers are hard to find. Dang, I mean, we only got. How many we got? We only got 6 of them at this point. Misfortune Renekton. I do worry about these style of decks. The Misfortune Challenger combo's pretty good against what we're trying to do here. But no giving up. Feeling good about it. Not ideal. Not ideal. Oh, yeah, he just has it. Okay. Just gotta. I know our unit dies here, but we just have to get his stuff off the board when we can. It's a Sumpworker, but we can't add it to the board until we have a little bit more presence. This is unfortunate as well. This is one of these turns we really need to be adding 2 cards to the board, and we just don't have them. I mean, I guess technically we could have like Defiant Dance this Misfortune or something, but okay, if he's passing, we'll pass. Not super worried about picking up a time trick. I mean, I guess this is what we should be suspecting out of the vulnerable deck. It's just not something our deck is equipped to deal with. How's this going to go? He can take down Ekko with just a Doomkeeper, but he misses out on a Scout attack that way. Or I mean, we could technically like Defiant Dance as Misfortune. Seems reasonable. If we don't deal with her now, she's going to be so close to flipping here in the immediate future. And this also makes it so if he wants to hook kill our Ekko, he has to use his big unit to do it. And the tricks? Oh my gosh. Okay. Really hoping that we'd be able to just get a time trick in here so we could try to find a second Sumpworker, but not the way things are going today. Okay. Well, I guess we can start with the Investigator. There is, well, if we draw a 1-drop, the only 1-cost card we can play is counterfeit copies. But the intent here is to attack with the Investigator and the Young Witch. I think we still need to protect the Sumpworker. The next turn we might be able to do something with Gotcha. Or if he just adds Misfortune here, we can play Gotcha anyways. Okay, that's fine. It's gonna have the Scrying Sands just for the total FU in this game. Get her out of here, but man, our blocks are so bad this turn. There's nothing we can do. It's too many 2-for-1s right at the beginning of the game. That's what you kind of tend to see with these decks. It's these Green-Glade duo decks do not play well against things that can interact with us. All right. We'll just go ahead and call it a day on this one. And so, yeah, it kind of is what it is. I'm not quite sure where I think of these Sumpworker decks, because it's just, drawing 1 copy of it is so bad. Just having a 1/2 elusive for 2 mana is just not a good deal. And then if your opponent has the interactive element to take down one of them, that's also pretty bad. So if you find yourself in a spot to where you actually need 3 of them instead of 2, and then even with a deck like this, I mean, we have 6 copies of it, right? So we don't have all the tools to find these, but if you don't draw both copies, it's a bit of a pain. And so I'm not like super sure where I stand on these. Like if we're gonna play this deck with the elusives to where you're just counting on your opponent to not be able to interact with you, you'd probably rather just be playing Green-Glade Duo. Like, I understand that that's not a strategy that you can say, well, just just find Irelia or Zed every single time, but the strategies play out pretty similarly, right? You're just trying to get down these non-interactive units, and then if you're playing against a deck to where they can interact with you, then you've probably got some problems. And so I think we probably could have pulled off that game against the Ash deck. That deck is pretty not good at interacting. It doesn't have Mystic Shots. It only has Caught in the Cold as far as challengers go. I think we lost that one as a function of how we played, but playing against something like Vulnerable Misfortune is just a nightmare. Just trying to put these 1 health units on the board in your duos and having them get Misfortune hooked, or even as far as the things like the Sumpworker go, and your opponent being able to just come in and knock it out. Like, I mean, that game may have turned out differently if we had played the 3/2 on the second turn instead of the Green-Glade Duo, so our opponent didn't just get the value attack on our 2-drop right at the beginning of the game. But still, it's pretty tough for the style of deck to really function against interactive decks from your opponents. So I'm trying to think if this deck would be like better or worse once the new card bonus falls off. Like I've been really surprised by the lack of misfortune we've been seeing these days. They've added 2 misfortune card pools, and I guess that she is, uh, kind of an older champion, and so it's not as sexy to be playing the older cards compared to the newer cards. But I'm really surprised that with misfortune being the most common champion in the game, that that we haven't been seeing more of her these days. But to cycle back to speaking to this deck in particular, again, this is pretty close to how I like things to look. We of course take the Chirean Sumpworker over anything and everything. After that, we are looking for things like iterative improvement to make copies of it, or we didn't see any of the Perfectionist. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but the 4/2 for 3 mana that predicts, and then you shuffle copies of the predict into your deck. That is the other kind of big card that you're looking for here, and so you have a bunch of cards that you actually want to play as the means to get these Sumpworkers going. And so I don't like playing counterfeit copies. I don't like, as far as these copy cards go, this is pretty bad. The other ones tend to be fine, like the Parade Electro Rig is fine. But if all we're doing is improving the card quality of our deck, then it's not worth a card. And so, as far as the copy cloning program kind of thing goes, I don't like counterfeit copies. As far as the predict side of things goes, again, feral prescience is exactly the same as counterfeit copies. It's not worth an entire card. We want to be playing things like what's it called? Inspired Chronomancer, or again, the Perfectionist that we mentioned. These things are real cards that have predicts attached to it. And so Scrying Sand's good, Feral Prescience bad. Otherwise, you just got to kind of accept that you're really all in on your strategy here with the Sumpworker. And if your opponent can interact with you, you're going to be in for a bad day. And if they're playing something to where they're just putting stats on the board, then you probably have a pretty good shot at just outracing whatever they're trying to do. And so, at the end of the day, I think this is probably about tier 3 strategy. It's pretty cool when it pops off. The meme value is pretty high, but it's not one of these decks I think that would regularly take you to 7. It's one of these things where let's say at the end of the day you're going to have an average win of 4 games. This is the kind of deck to where you probably got there because you had like uh, a 7, a 5, and a 0, whatever that amounts to. Does that come up to 4, as opposed to being like 3, 4, 5? This is it feels like if it all completely comes together, and if the draft goes well, or if the matchups go well, then you'll probably shoot right up to 7 wins. And then if at the end of the day you've got all these counterfeit copies and all these predict cards, but you only have like 2 Sumpworkers, and then you play against a bad matchup, you're probably just going to get aced super fast. So not bad at all, though. I was hoping we got to have some more meme value out of the Sumpworker and some real highlight video type plays. Didn't happen in this trial. Have to try it again sometime and see if we can't piece a little bit more together. But looks like we're almost out of rewards here. Looks like we have a touch of rewards from doing the labs. I think that was some icons we just grabbed there. I kind of missed it, but that will do it for us today. And so, did hope you all learned how to venture into the sump a little bit better. You maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.